Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Then let's see the expression of the fault current. With all these things we have derived. See equation 5 already. Then actually there were two parts of fault current. One is steady state, another is the transient. So first one is the steady state component, second one is the transient component. In case of DC, the maximum component of transient is the V by R. But in AC, since it has a reactance and along with that it may have reference phase angle with respect to reference phasor. So the magnitude of the transient part is not only Imax, along with that there is a component sine theta minus alpha. Obviously this sine theta minus alpha is constant for a particular system or a particular fault. Then transient component, obviously since this has a component of e to the power minus RT by L, so it will make the current asymmetrical. Otherwise, when this transient component will be died down at t equal to infinity, then obviously the fault current will be purely sinusoidal. But at the same time, we should not allow the fault current to flow in the circuit for a long time. We should try to disconnect the faulty portion from the healthy circuit as early as possible and try to find out the problem, where is the fault. We shall recover that one, then we shall connect this faulty portion again to the healthy portion after the occurrence of fault. Then if we want to plot this thing I have discussed already. So when if alpha equal to 0 and theta equal to pi by 2, then that's Imax sine theta minus alpha, the maximum value of this transient fault current. This was the transient fault current, Imax sine theta minus alpha. Then obviously when theta equal to pi by 2, alpha equal to 0, then this Imax sine theta minus alpha will be equal to Imax, and that will be the maximum value. So in that way it will be maximum at theta equal to pi by 2. At the same time, the steady state component at theta equal to pi by 2, if alpha equal to 0, then it will be the maximum peak. Okay, understood? When for steady state say when alpha equal to 0, theta equal to pi by 2, IT max equal to Imax, then expression of fault current will be Imax sine theta minus pi by omega t minus pi by 2, because theta is now pi by 2, and putting theta equal to pi by 2, alpha equal to 0, we have got that the maximum value of transient component also Imax, that is this one. This was the maximum value of transient component. Alpha is 0 and theta is 90 degree. Obviously the sinusoidal component or the steady component will be Imax sine omega t minus pi by 2. So in that way this expression will be this one. So this is the worst condition when the transient current is maximum, because transient current is additive with the steady state current and it will increase the value of fault current. Why the higher value of fault current is detrimental, more detrimental? Because at that time we have to disconnect that current. We have to disconnect the circuit with that current, and for higher current disconnection of circuit is more challenging. Then if omega t equal to 0, then what will happen? At t equal to 0, obviously the real part of this sinusoidal component will be the minus Imax. Is it clear to you or not? What will be the value of this steady state component at t equal to 0 or omega t equal to 0? It is minus Imax because minus Imax sine pi by 2, Imax sine pi minus pi by 2. So sine minus pi by 2 is minus 1. So minus Imax. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So at t equal to 0 at the same time, so it is minus Imax. Similarly, at the same time, when t equal to 0, then it is plus Imax. So at t equal to 0, fault current is 0. Obviously, that will happen because at t equal to 0, there was no fault current. But what will happen then? When omega t equal to pi, just you put here pi, then what will happen? When omega t equal to pi, then sinusoidal component will have the positive maximum peak because sine pi by 2. But here we should not put in the transient component, there is no omega t, so we have to put the corresponding value of t here. So what is the value of t, corresponding value of t here? Actually, our waveform is pure sinusoidal, our system voltage or current, and it is at 50 Hz frequency. So at 50 Hz frequency means wavelength of one wave is 20 millisecond because 1 by 50. So 1 second by 50 actually, so 20 millisecond. So pi by 2 means actually this point, sorry, pi means actually this point. So pi, t corresponds to pi is obviously 10 millisecond. Could you understood or not?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's why I have put t equal to 10 millisecond here. Then obviously when we put t equal to 10 millisecond, it will never be Imax. But depending on if the R by L is very low, very high, that means L by R is very low, that means low time constant, that we should expect that the decay transient component will die down very fastly. Then obviously this total value of the transient component will be higher. Maximum value will be near to Imax, but you should remember it can never be Imax because there is some exponential term, and it cannot be Imax at some time. Only at t equal to 0 it will be Imax, right? And otherwise it will be always less than Imax. So now, how this Tmax, transient component will decay from plus Imax, that depends on the decaying rate of that current. So that depends on the time constant of that circuit, that is L by R. Anyway, so at t equal to 10 millisecond, this decay will not be so high, so big. So decay will be very less. So current will decrease from Imax, but not a very low value. It may be 0.85, it may be 0.95, depending on L by R ratio. So approximately it will be near to Imax. So at 10 millisecond, it will be near to twice Imax, the total value, because the steady state value is the Imax. So at this condition, obviously the maximum fault current is possible, because at t equal to 0, both the currents are maximum, but the steady state component is at its negative peak. So they are cancelling out each other. Say at t equal to 0, what is happening? I have shown this negative, this is sinusoidal steady state component by dotted line when the transient part is existing, until the duration for which this transient component is existing. I have drawn steady state component by dotted line. Why? Because when the transient component is existing, at that time steady state component is there. But when we are seeing a fault current, you cannot see transient component and steady state component separately. You always see the total current that I have shown by purple color only. So that I have shown. That's why I have shown the component currents as the dotted one. So obviously at t equal to 0, then I is at a steady state current is at minus Imax, and I have assumed that, and we have assumed that the total IT max is plus Imax. So it is the maximum plus value, but plus value. Sorry, this one, the red one. This value is the maximum here. Can you see the tick?
Yes, ma'am.
So this transient component and steady state component are cancelling out each other. That's why fault current is 0 at this moment. So So now it at any intermediate point steady state current is going on increasing. That means it is going from negative value to some zero value, then it will become positive value, and this transient component is gradually drying down. So at t equal to pi, what will happen? Omega t equal to pi. So what will happen at this moment? At this moment, as I have circled, so at this moment, this current, the transient steady state component of current and the transient component of current, you can show the red dotted line here. So they are very near to each other. So summation of them will be near to double of the steady state component. That's why I have written here. This is approximately equal to twice Imax. Now, if we want to get what is the maximum value, exact maximum value, then obviously we have to calculate what is the decay at this point, and then what is the time at this point, and then we can calculate L by R. L and R may be known, but it is very difficult because it depends. Obviously, what will be the value of L and R, that will be dependent on fault point, at which point the fault has occurred. So every time it will be changed from one fault to another. So it is very difficult to, it is very rigorous to calculate for every time what will be the exact transient component, and then it will be added to steady state component to assess the transient component. Why it is required? If we want to disconnect the circuit at this time, if we want to disconnect the circuit at this time, I am drawing by vertical line. Say at, the line has dented to some extent. At omega t equal to pi, or say at t equal to 10 millisecond, if we want to disconnect the circuit, then circuit breaker will face this much of current, which is much higher than the steady state current, approximately double of this. So this assessment is required only for the design of the protection devices, and in every case it will be near to twice Imax. In some case it will be 1.95, in some case it will be 1.85 of Imax. In this way it will vary, but it will be very near to each other. So as a thumb rule, we can take that maximum value of fault current may be 1.8 times of Imax, when we can give some allowance, that we are assuming that transient component has not has become on maximum 80% when it is facing the first positive peak of the steady state current. Otherwise it is less than that. But if so, 1.8 Imax, that is the maximum value of fault current, is a good estimate for protection system design. But when the system we are designing, that is critical one, very small fluctuation may affect the system. In that case, it is safe to take the maximum fault current as twice Imax, because it can never be at twice Imax. It will always be less than twice Imax. So your design will always be safe. Then why we do not do this thing with twice Imax always? Because when you are using higher current, you are designing protection system with higher current, then you need higher insulation, then you need more cost. So to make economic, in most of the cases we take 1.8 Imax as the maximum fault current, and that holds good for most of the power system, most of the cases. Only in some tricky system, when the system is very much vulnerable, maximum value of fault current as twice Imax. So main thing is how to assess the value of fault current. So obviously magnitude of fault current, this thing is at t equal to 0, IF equal to 0. Then first half cycle, it is becoming this, I have already discussed. So this is the thing. So you see now I have drawn, but here I have drawn that this time length much higher than 10 millisecond in a scale. If you see the oscillogram, it will be far lesser. If you see the oscillogram, actually you see this type of thing. I think I have shown this one in your last class also. And from there, actually we can divide this total phenomenon of this fault current, decrement of fault current from a high transient value to a steady state value into three subsections. One is subtransient period, another is transient period, then is the steady state period. Subtransient period is the high and it is decaying at very high rate, because here the decaying rate slope of the current for the transient component will be higher. Now here it may be for this one you say decaying rate is more only up to two cycles. If you see 2.5 cycles. Now for some system it may be 3 cycles, so it will depend system to system and which portion you are taking sub-transient system. Sometimes it is also depend on the designer, but obviously current is when the current is steady state, that will that duration, that point we should not take as the sub-transient period. Actually the definition of sub-transient period is when the decaying rate of transient current is very high, at the same time the value of transient current is very high, both are high. So actually then the total fault current is higher, then that is the sub-transient current. During transient current, transient state, steady state is there, current is there. Along with that, sub-transient current has, the time varying current or the exponential component of current, that is DC component, that has not died down totally. They are existing, but at a very small value. For example, for this duration set. So for this duration, the value of transient current is less than 50% or near to 50% of the steady state current, and it is gradually drying down, but the rate of drying down is lesser. So for this period of time, the transient component of current is there, along with the steady state component of current is there. Please do not mix the transient component of current with the transient period. Transient period is when transient component of current has decayed but it is existing, then it is transient state. And sub-transient state is when transient component of current is at a very high value and decaying at a faster rate, then it is sub-transient period. Then when total transient component of current dies down, so after this red line, then all are the steady state component. So from here we can decide that if we want to disconnect the circuit at the early stage of fault occurrence, from the power system protection point of view, obviously it is better whenever there is a fault we should disconnect that, but we have to face more current, very high current, if we want to disconnect it at sub-transient period. So it is better from the protection point of view to make the protection system economic to disconnect it during transient and steady state period. But obviously it is not depend only on this criteria. Depending on the severity of the fault, depending on the position of the fault where it has occurred, we may have to disconnect the circuit near to in the sub-transient period also. Okay, understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So I hope you have understood what is the difference between sub-transient and transient state. Steady state you can well understood, and what is transient current. These are the 3 different things. So this thing, whatever I have told, that is written. I have told in your last class also. Now the thing is that here, when we are analyzing fault, then we need a circuit. For this, that we have to calculate the current. So we have to represent every power system components by in a system. It is loaded, it has some load. Then what will be the transformer efficiency? What is the loss in the transformer? For calculation of that, only transformer translation are not sufficient, because in real transformer there is some loss, there is some leakage. So for that reason there is an equivalent circuit. So similarly, when this transformer is added in a power system, then there will be also an equivalent circuit consisting of transformer. There are those type of circuit we have discussed in power unit system class. So there obviously we need the representation of generator also. There we have discussed that generator is represented as voltage behind transient reactance. Now here you can say when there will be a fault, then that reactance may be sub-transient reactance, maybe transient reactance, or maybe steady state state reactance, because here induced EMF will be same, but what will be the reactance offered by the generator, that will be dependent on the fault current. Under normal condition, always the generator reactance is the synchronous reactance, because it will never offer the current higher than the rated current. But when it is under fault, then it will offer much higher than its rated current. Much higher than the rated current will flow through it. Sometimes it may be in opposite direction also. So this is the generator alternator equivalent circuit during. Okay, this is alternator equivalent circuit under normal condition. This heading is actually a discussing equivalent circuit of an alternator during fault, for that reason. Now fault, for three different conditions: transient, subtransient period, transient and period, and steady state period, the behavior of alternator are different, to some extent different. So their representations are also different. So in general, when we represent a transformer by its equivalent circuit, it has induced EMF, it has an armature resistance, along with that it has a armature reaction resistance. What is armature reaction resistance? When current flows through an alternator, then it acts in opposition. Its flux created due to this acts in opposition to field flux. So it actually tries to reduce the field flux, and field flux is responsible to generate this induced EMF. That's why XA, that phenomena, armature reaction, is represented by a reactance in the transformer generator equivalent circuit, so that this can be shown as a drop. IXA will be dropped due to armature reaction, because that drop means that is actually reducing this EG. That is reducing the resultant terminal voltage across the alternator. And this XL is constant for a particular alternator. XL is the leakage reactance. We know the leakage reactance is undefined, but when you establish a magnetic circuit, then that will be a constant for that particular magnetic circuit. Leakage reactance means the reactance produced due to the flux which is flowing to the undesired path. That means that is not flowing through the air gap. Okay, I hope you know these things. Do you have any doubt in this? This part is very important. It is asked in examination, in interviews. Any question? No.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Then, say transformer, this alternator has a fault at its terminal. Then what will happen? Now, when there is a fault, then obviously this IA is not actually the rated current. Now IA is near to the fault current, and fault current is much higher. And that fault is directly connected to the transformer generator armature circuit, not with the field circuit, because field circuit is the isolated one, that is the DC one. But it will affect the field circuit in a different way. Say here, when there is a huge current flowing through it, then it will try to reduce the field flux. Then what will be the resultant air gap flux? Always field flux minus armature reaction flux. And this armature reactance has calculated or has been found out experimentally under normal operating condition, when the generator is loaded with its rated current, maximum current, that according to its rating. But when there is a fault, this IA is varying, and this IA is varying, and this IA is very high as compared to its rated value. So obviously this phi A will go very high, because phi A will be the air gap flux, armature reaction flux produced by armature current, before is proportional to armature current. So in result, this air gap flux will decrease drastically, because phi F is constant. You are not doing nothing on the field circuit, and phi F is constant. You are doing nothing in the field circuit, and phi A has been increased due to high fault current. Then obviously this air gap flux will try to decrease, But due to according to constant flux linkage theory, this change cannot be happen instantaneously. So obviously this will happen if we allow this fault current to flow through it. Finally, it will nullify the fault field current, and finally there will be no electric power generation. So what will happen? So generator will try to prohibit that condition. For that reason, there is damper winding in the generator. Where is the position of damper winding? Can anybody say? I think you have learned this thing this year, or I think third year, first semester. Synchronous generator, have you learned or not? Synchronous generator, have you learned or not?
Yes, ma'am, we have learned.
From the next class, I shall tell to everybody to keep their video on, because I cannot see that anybody and you are listening to me, or you are just switching on it and I am just talking to myself. That I do not know. Okay, and then this time spending is useless. I don't want to spend time in this way. Anyway, so what is the position of damper winding? Do you know? Have you learned the synchronous generator? Or you learned?
Synchronous generator was there in the previous semester.
And then you have not gone through?
Yes, ma'am, we have gone through.
But forgotten, because you have not given the examination. In synchronous, you must remember, synchronous generator is very much important for your profession. Okay, I think everybody of you will not switch the profession from the electrical engineering. So synchronous generator is very much important. You must learn it for your sake, for your interest, because you have to do the job. Anyway, in synchronous generator is very common question. What is the function of damper winding? Where is it situated? How it is connected? So it is these are very important. What is Portier tangle? I think this has been discussed in your class. Anyway, then a synchronous generator has damper winding in its armature slots, which are actually short-circuited winding. Fluxes are induced in this winding when the currents are very high in the armature. So this winding will have mutual flux when then there is a high current in the armature winding, and the flux developed in the damper winding acts in opposition to armature winding. You know, mutual flux may aid the main source flux or main flux, or may not aid. That depends on that how have you wound that winding. So for that reason, in that way, the damper winding is designed. You should learn design damper winding by yourself. Damper winding is designed and it is positioned in this armature slot in between two armature winding, as far I know. Then in between two slots of main armature winding. Then you see, so obviously this current, this phi A is not normal when there is a fault. So in that case, damper winding will come into action. And what I have told, that flux produced in damper winding works in opposition to armature winding. So obviously it will not aid the armature winding flux. That means armature reaction flux. That means actually it is aiding the field flux. So you may see field winding and damper winding are making a team, so that the induced EMF or the air gap flux may be kept constant against huge increase in armature reaction flux. So two reactants are actually producing flux, or two inductors are producing flux to develop the induced EMF, and one inductor or one winding is producing flux which will oppose that induced to develop that induced EMF. Then what will be the equivalent circuit? So equivalent circuit will be, we can assume as that that this field winding reactants and armature winding reactants are working in opposition to armature reaction flux. That means these three are parallel. Why parallel? Because these two, except that is armature field winding reactants and damper winding reactants, are opposing the armature reaction. So opposing armature reaction, now armature reaction is represented by XA, and these are opposing that one. That means this XA will reduce. How the value of a reactor or inductor can be reduced? When something is added in parallel with it. So in that way we may represent this. But you must remember that this field winding, the position of this field winding is in armature, in the rotor of the alternator. This damper winding is position is in the armature, but in the different position than the armature, main armature winding. So these three windings are not electrically connected, but they are mutual. They are affecting each other in this way. Similar to that, I think you can understood. There is some
So
mutual
ma'am,
circuit.
this is the approximation. We are putting it in parallel so that
I am explaining. So if there be a mutual circuit like that, for that you have got a circuit XM, XS, then XM minus 1, I forgot. That common path it XS, XM, and then it may be erroneous. And its common path is this one. This will be XM minus 1. That is equivalent circuit. I forgot that one. So in that way, obviously equivalent circuit is always approximated one. When you do the transformer equivalent circuit, that circuit is never exists within a transformer. Okay, no resistor is connected there, no inductor is there, but the behavior of transformer in such a way that we can represent that behavior by that equivalent circuit. You can never import that secondary winding resistance of a transformer to the primary, but we do it in the electrical when we do the equivalent circuit. Why we can do that? Because the behavior of the transformer is like that. So we are representing the equivalent circuit is a circuit representation of the behavior of a particular machine. Similarly, here also, when there is a subtransient condition during fault, then the alternator will behave in this way. So how we can represent the behavior? In that case, if we just write that it is RA in series with XA and XL, then that will be wrong, because during subtransient action period, this field winding and damper winding will come into action, and that will try to reduce, and that will reduce the armature reaction flux. So overall, this parallel combination will be less than XA. So overall, the RA plus XA plus XS was the synchronous reactance. Now this XA has been reduced due to action of the field winding and the damper winding. So obviously if the X is reduced, then this XS will be reduced. And one more thing, XL, that is leakage reactance, will always be constant. So that behavior we can show by the subtransient circuit, equivalent circuit during subtransient period. Now this portion is totally hypothetical. Interpret this one that this is less than XS. Understood or not?
Yes, ma'am. Now, one question, ma'am. Practically, are the values of XA and XF comparable, or XF and XD are very less than XA?
XA is called XA and XL.
XA and XF,
XA
ma'am.
and XL or
F and D.
what?
XA and XF. F and A, ma'am.
S and A. S and A will be near to each other, because generally we make the electromagnetic circuit in such a way that leakage should be minimum. So that's why we make air gap as minimum as possible. Leakage of a magnetic circuit, when there is a air gap, that depends on the length of the air gap. Can you remember? In your magnetic circuit, you have learned that.
Yes, ma'am.
If the air gap is more, then the leakage will be more. Okay, so for that reason, so if there is the circuit is like that, it is passing through the air gap, and if you are increasing the air gap, so there will be more tendency of flux line to go outside and will not return to here. If it is returned to here, then leakage flux will be lesser. So when the cross section is increasing, then it's called fringing of flux. But when it is not returning, it is going somewhere else, then it is leakage of flux. So it is dependent on mainly the air gap, because air gap is a conductor of electromagnetic flux, magnetic flux, but it is not so good conductor like magnetic material. So that's why this thing happens.
Ma'am,
I think you are asking.
I think he means reactance of the field winding and the armature reaction reactance. XA and XF.
XA
And XF, the reactance of the field winding.
Yes, what I want to say, I cannot say.
Are these two having similar values? Are they in the same range?
No, XF here you can represent, say there are 3 fluxes. Say this is armature reaction flux, right? Say XA, right? Then this flux, field winding flux, obviously in opposite direction, and damper winding flux again at opposite direction. So every flux we may represent by an winding, by an inductor. So when this 2 was not present, then this inductor only was there. When these 2 has come into action, then these 2 are reducing this original one. So we are assuming that they are as if they are in parallel. That does not mean here we have electrically connected field winding in the armature circuit. This XF is the equivalent reactance which is responsible to decrease the armature reactance due to the effect of field winding, due to the action of field winding. Understood?
Man, then should we not present them as in series but in opposite direction? Like the winding is in the opposite
XF.
direction. Yes, XF and XF.
Should we
put
not?
it in series but negative reactance, like that.
I cannot follow you. I cannot hear it. It should be not. Huh? No, in mutual reactance we do not say by negative reactance. Why negative reactance? In mutual circuit, is there any when we represent an inductance, is it negative reactance? I think you are you are saying this thing from the concept that is XS minus XM, XS. There are 2 winding, one is XL1, XL2, and due to mutual, the common winding, common branch become XM minus XL like that. Are you telling from that one? Actually, here the representation is to indicate that this XA will not be XA when there is a subtransient condition. This XA will be reduced. Now there are 2 types of representation. This XA will be reduced. So you may say this is XA minus K. That is one type of representation. Or you may say this XS has been connected to some reactance that is producing XS minus K. XA minus K. There are 2 types of representation only. Then if the equivalent reactance is XA minus K, then what will be this reactance we can calculate? We are assuming this one as XF. Would I explain that one? Are you convinced?
Yes, ma'am, understood. Yes, ma'am. My microphone is not working. That is.
Okay. So why I am not representing in this way? And in all of the book you will say this type of representation. Why? What is the justification in that? Because in this way you cannot represent for which reason it has been decreased, right? But here we are by showing this reactances by suffix F. I am representing that there is reduction due to field winding. XDW, that means that there is reduction for the damper winding. It does not mean if the field winding reactance is 10 ohm, then here it will be 10 ohm. It will be the equivalent reactance. It may be 5 ohm, it will be maybe 9 ohm, because it is actually the mutual flux that is coming here, right? Or the effect of that one. total flux may be reduced, armature winding flux may be part of that. So maximum may be total flux. That's why it is XF. Otherwise, it will be KXF, like that mu coefficient of coupling. From there, it may come. But here, actually, the attention is not given in the total mathematical expression, because all these three windings are not in same position in the alternator. So in this way, we can never calculate XS dash. If you go through your machine lab class of synchronous generator, then you will see for this XS dash calculation, there is some experimental method, because how they will behave, we can never define from an analytical method. By some mathematics, we cannot do it. So we need experiment. We need the behavioral thing. As if in your second semester lab, second year lab, somewhere you do one induced generator, the voltage developer, EMF developed curve for a generator. That we call the voltage build-up curve. I do not know whether you have done in your lab, it was possible and before this pandemic or not. There is a curve that you have to draw experimentally, like this, like the magnetization curve in generator, DC generator and alternator also. So what will be this curve? Obviously, that will depend on the magnetic circuit of that machine. So every time it should be experimental for a particular machine. You cannot extract it theoretically. Similarly, also XS dash, we cannot extract it theoretically. Always we have to calculate. We have to calculate it experimentally, right? But the thing is that here, so why I am explaining all these things right now, then to make you understand that here the XS dash, when reactance offered by synchronous generator during subtransient period, will be far lesser than the normal operating period. That means, what is the meaning that XS dash is lesser? So XS dash is lesser means this will the equivalent circuit is offering higher current in that way. Understood or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So actually, in second stage, what will happen when there is in transient state? What happen in transient state? The transient component of current die down. So this IA is not near to twice Imax, but maybe 1.5 Imax, like that in transient period. But in some subtransient, it is near to 1.8 Imax, 1.9 Imax. What is Imax? Imax is the maximum value of steady state fault current. Then during transient period, damper winding will be isolated from the system, because it is a short circuited winding and its time constant is very high, so it's very low, so it will decay very fast, so it will not offer flux for a long time. So in that case, the damper winding, if it is not offering flux, that means it is offering no reactance, so it will be disconnected. So in that case, the effective armature reaction flux or armature reactance will be parallel combination of these two, that is XS dash. So I only want to convey that obviously XS dash will be less than this XS double dash, because in that case 3 winding were in parallel. Here only 2 winding. Damper winding has gone because it has the low time constant. I think I have written here. I'm not reading because I have already explained. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So in short, after this half an hour discussion, in short, the fault current during transient and subtransient condition are higher, and during subtransient it is highest, maybe twice time of steady state fault current. Here Imax is not the rated current, Imax is the steady state fault current. Then there the fault is divided, duration of fault may be divided into three separate periods. One is subtransient period, transient period, steady state period. Now when we try to find out an equivalent circuit of an alternator for this fault, we have seen that during subtransient period its reactance is not its synchronous reactance, it is somewhat less than that we represented by XS dash. So XS dash actually is called this XS dash is actually called subtransient reactance. That I have written here. Excess reacts the subtransient reactance of the alternator. Similarly, during transient period, it offers a reactance excess dash, not excess. That is the transient reactance of the alternator. Obviously, at steady state, there will be no field will be there, because if we allow the fault current to flow, then field current cannot control this one, then voltage will die down, and then in that case it will be like the normal one, so it will be RA plus XS. So this is the steady state period. So actually for alternator, always the steady state synchronous reactance is more than transient synchronous reactance, and transient state synchronous reactance is more than subtransient synchronous reactance. And in examination or interview, question is asked to explain why the subtransient or transient reactance is lesser than the synchronous reactance. I hope you can explain that one. Now similarly for salient pole machine, there is D-axis and Q-axis reactances. In the same way, there will be D-axis transient reactance, Q-axis and transient reactance, and similarly the subtransient reactances. And in every cases, you know, D-axis reactances are more than Q-axis reactances. So from there, you can explain this one also. Now this explanation I have done for this alternator. And for alternator and synchronous motor, the representation are exactly same. Only the direction of currents are opposite. So these all the representations are valid for the synchronous motors also. Understood?
Ma'am, could you please explain why the field reactance is not present in the steady state condition?
Field reactance under fault condition, it cannot maintain the air gap flux, because if the current is higher, then it cannot maintain. It's more for a long time. Okay, so it will be represented by this one, because if the field winding what happened at the normal condition, why the XA come, why the armature reaction takes place, that means the field winding is not sufficient to make the air gap wipe out the armature reaction. It has some effect. For the same reason, steady state period is like the normal operating period, but the current is higher. Understood?
Yes.
Then for the transformer are easier. This is the transformer equivalent circuit. Refer to primary, or it may be referred to secondary. If we represent in per unit system, then transformer, these values will be same whether we refer to primary side or secondary side. Now since we are analyzing the fault for short circuit fault, so current are flowing in this direction, obviously there will be some branch current, but this branch current under normal condition is far lesser than the series current, that is the rated current. Then during fault, this series current is much higher than the normal rated current. Then obviously this branch current will be further lesser. So this branch we may neglect in calculation. Obviously they are there, but if we consider them, then our calculation will be complex, and there is no need of that, because contribution of this branch current in the fault current will be very low, because they have very high reactance or resistance, and the voltage has died down, because this is short circuit fault. So it will not contribute so much current to the fault. So with that justification, actually we do not consider any shunt branch even for transmission line when we analyze the fault, but when we represent it for the fault. But when we represent it for the normal operating condition, then we have to consider all the things. Okay, this thing, how for normal operating condition, what will be the representative of transformer, that we shall we discuss only in the 4th year elective paper, who take the power system as the elective. Otherwise there is no option to take that one. Then if the shunt branch is neglected, then obviously the equivalent circuit become like this. Now we can add the resistive portion and the inductive portion. And if we do it in per unit, then if whether you refer to primary or secondary, this will be same. That's why always for fault calculation we do in the per unit system. Then obviously if we neglect the resistance part, then this will be the transformer equivalent circuit. Why we generally in fault calculation we neglect the resistance part. If you check the resistance of any device, transformer or alternator, with respect to its reactance, it is reactance is more or less 10 times of the resistance. So obviously if we neglect 5 to 10 times, I think. So if we neglect the resistance, that will not affect the impedance so much, because the value of impedance is dominated by the value of reactance. And fault calculation, that we are estimating the fault current, the estimation should be faster. So and it should be as simple as possible. So we neglect these resistances when we calculate fault current. But obviously when we are neglecting the resistances, we are approximating the circuit. If we want to calculate the exact fault current, then we should consider the resistance also. Understood? So for yes, tell me. Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Then obviously the equivalent circuit of transformer and induction motor are same. So in any case, if we require to represent an induction motor in a single line diagram of a power system, then we may represent this one by simple like transformer, because in induction motor only instead of R2 there is R2 by S. I think nothing more than that. So in that way we can represent. So also alternator and synchronous motor, the representation are same. For transmission line, transmission line we can represent the most accurate representation is the equivalent models. For transmission line we use the pi equivalent models, and for the fault calculation, since shunt branch are actually due to the capacitors, and the current contribution of the capacitors depend on the voltage of in the transmission line, and during short circuit voltage goes down. So with the same reason as of transformer, we do not consider shunt of the transmission line when we are using that in the fault analysis. So in fault analysis, whatever be the circuit of the transmission line, equivalent circuit is this series impedance and shunt branch. Your B section, I do not know what representation you have seen. Not I am talking about nominal pi. I am talking about equivalent pi. Okay. If you cannot remember equivalent pi, then you must go through the class note.
Yes, ma'am. We have gone through this.
So equivalent pi. This is Z dash. This is Y dash. So Z dash is Z sine hyperbolic omega L, hyperbolic gamma L. This Y dash by 2 is Y by 2 sine hyperbolic gamma L by 2 by gamma L by 2, whatever. We can calculate that one. But during fault, since the shunt branch contribution is very low, if you have calculated already in your planning design class, you have seen this shunt branch currents are very low. So in fault, it will be further lower because this terminal voltage will go down due to short circuit. So we shall represent this one separately only by a series circuit. Now we may consider resistance, then it will be Z dash. If we do not consider resistance, that it will be simply a X dash. So in that way, of transmission line separately, I think this explanation is sufficient. Okay, so every component of power transmission system now we can represent for faulted condition. For normal condition, how to represent, we have seen in our per unit system, class. So in next day we shall discuss one fault calculation method based on this concept. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.